From our viewers, Brady writes in from Saskatoon, Prairie Mobile text line, and you can reach us at 840-8777. Prairie Mobile is your authorized Sask mobility dealer. He says, hey, Rod, Habs return tonight with Microfleek in the lineup. The Blades are just too good. Nolan Meyer now holds the franchise record in wins by a goalie. Nolan Meyer, can somebody give this guy a tryout? Not drafted, not invited to the World Juniors, and he's only the franchise leader with a team that's had Tim Cheveldae, Braden Holtby, Mark Reimer, nobody will remember, but he was tremendous. What did Nolan Meyer do to anybody, Taylor?
I don't know. He's a good goalie.
He's fantastic.
He'll get a tryout, though. I think he's turning some heads, and he will get a tryout somewhere.
He goes on to say, just to finish up, Brady says, are we sure Connor Bedard is human? And the Flames still suck. That's from Brady in Saskatoon. Connor Bedard, man. Like last night, a goal and 3 assists for the Wonder Boy. He's got 17 points in 9 games as a 15-year-old. And if you go and look at our Instagram story at Rod Pedersen Official, all the highlights are butted up together. He looks like Wayne Gretzky. Just zing, 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 zing. Like when you watch the whole 60-minute game, it averages out a little bit. But just the highlights, maybe that's where we'll start, Taylor, because we'll get into all these topics with you, is Bedard. Wow.
He's been phenomenal, and I've sort of turned into a bit of a fan just watching him play, like tuning into the broadcast or going to the rink, and just it's hard to take your eyes off of him because he's racking up the points, but it seems every point is almost a highlight reel move where he'll go through a guy and he's the primary assist off his own rebound or whatnot. It seems like he's splitting defensemen each shift, getting his own rebound and giving it to somebody else if it doesn't score the first time. So he's just been phenomenal to watch, and we knew there was going to be a bit of a learning curve, and I think he took 1 or 2 games where he still racked up points, but now I think he's getting a bit more swagger, getting a bit more confidence with his line mates especially. Denemy has been great along his wing, and then they're kind of cycling through that other winger. Zach Smith last night had a great game alongside. So, I mean, as advertised.
For our viewers in Eastern Canada, the Maritimes, Quebec, and Ontario, we're talking about who's been labeled the next Connor McDavid, the next John Tavares. Connor Bedard of the Regina Pats is 15 years old, the first ever exceptional player in league history, and he's just lighting it up at 15 last night, a goal and 3 assists, and he's on a 9-game point streak. Nobody in the league has a streak that long. Breaking news, I'm going to go by our viewers here, but they're saying that the Kelowna Rockets have suspended activities immediately because of a positive COVID-19 test. And where is it? Is it Nelson, our VP of Sim Events, Nelson Hakowicz, writing in saying it was a staff member, not players, but that's news from the Western Hockey League, the Kelowna Rockets suspending all team activities. And also to the Eastern people, and I apologize to the OHL fans because they're not playing, and it's awful. But what's happening in the queue with playoffs? My question to you, Taylor, is do you think, I keep hearing there's going to be playoffs here in the Dub, in this division, in the Dub Hub. Should all 7 teams make the playoffs? I say no.
No, I'm going to agree with you, and I would love to disagree with you, but no, they're going to award the Subway Cup to the top the first place finisher in the standings, and I think that's all it's for. This really, as much as every team wants to win, this 24-game season is for the scouts. It's for the player development. It's sort of like an extended preseason spring camp where there's no championship at the end of it. It's just about exposure. And basically, you see how many scouts are in the rink? That's kind of why they're doing it.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
30,
exactly.
40, it seems like up to 50 maybe a game, but they're so spread out, it's hard to tell how many scouts there are. But can somebody, again, please tell me what's happening in the queue? Because they're playing. And they've had their ups and downs, too. I mean, what just happened in Kelowna today has happened in the queue, but they've been struggling to get through it. It's hard, isn't it, Taylor? The things that we've learned in the pandemic, that you think it's all about the competition at the major junior level or junior A, but it's really not. It's about getting evaluation in for the upcoming NHL draft.
Exactly, and the NHL has a lot of stake in these junior leagues to, I don't know how much they fund them, but that basically the NHL relies on the CHL as a feeder league into their league. So it's huge, and in terms of the Kelowna Rockets, the East Division hub anyway, I think it goes across the Western League, where if a team has a positive test, it's a 14-day stoppage, basically. No
for
games.
Everybody or just that team?
For that team, 14-day stoppage, assuming that it hasn't leaked into other teams. So immediate 14-day stoppage. I imagine it's the same in Kelowna.
They are not fooling around.
So yeah, if that happens in the Regina hub, same thing, 14-day stoppage. In a 48 game season or 48 day season, 24 game, that's a lot of games to eat up. And I don't know how far, if they will extend it to make up those games. So let's hope it doesn't happen here, but I don't imagine they'll make up those games.
Probably not.
They'll just have to miss them.
Viewer Dawson Brolin says, speaking of British Columbia, what's the deal with this Junior A exodus? Any more details today? I love the idea of it. Here's the details that I never concluded late last week when I broke the story that the BC Hockey League is breaking away from the Canadian Junior Hockey League, the umbrella that oversees Junior A, and that they're taking 4 Alberta teams with them. I had a note from a hockey guy in Lloydminster that said, Rod, the word here in the league and the AJ is that you're a year ahead of your time here. This is going to happen, but not for a year. So you understand, I would guess, that these teams have to notify their league a year in advance that they're leaving. Shoot, in the Western League, you need to notify the league if you plan to change your jersey a year in advance. So if you plan on leaving, Taylor, it would be a year. So now you can wait all spring and summer for those 4 teams that I've been told, Brooks, Okotoks, Spruce Grove, and Grand Prairie. Now, some of them are denying it, of course, but in some cases we're talking about community boards too. Not everybody may have all the facts. But just because the AJHL is denying 4 of the teams are going to leave doesn't mean it's not going to happen. They might not have put their notice in yet. But BC's gone. They're gone. And when asked for a comment on my story, the commissioner said, no comment at this time, which is a comment. I'll get to these viewer comments in a moment. We got a guest here. Before we switch to CFL, XFL, Taylor, you are our director of officiating, and I don't mean to put you on the hot spot, but you can handle it. I know you well enough. Where are you in the Tim Peel thing? You are an ordained official from the SHA. Are you going to tell me makeup calls don't happen?
They happen anywhere from minor hockey to beer league through the pro ranks on any given night. And that conversation that Tim Peel had happens basically every game in every rank across the world. Because I sort of relate it to everyday life. If you shortchange somebody at the till, if you're a cow, whatever.
You'll make it up.
You'll make it up to them the next time. If you give them a bad meal, you'll make it up to them the next time. It's sort of the same thing. It's just game management. They're human. So if you make a crappy call or 6 calls in a row, you're probably going to make it up to the other team a little bit. You're not going to be, any egregious calls don't matter. Those aren't the makeup calls. It's the little stick. Was it a penalty? 50-50. I'll make it up to you next period. Or there's 100 different options that I could give, examples that I could give. But just because there was a live mic and it picked it up, it's the same as a cell phone video catching somebody. Yeah. Just because there was no cell phone video doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Did happen. And now there's a cell phone video and a live mic. Oh, these things are happening and we're seeing them. So it's holding people more accountable. Yes, it's making people watch what they say and watch what they do, which I think in turn will be beneficial for everybody because accountability is important.
Yes, but it feels like nobody really knows what they're doing. Like the next night when the ref was talking to Wayne Simmons and covered his mic in his collar, I'm like, you understand that the next ref's mic is on.
Yeah.
And it was the mic on the glass that caught him, not the one on his here. But so for the NHL, they denied that it happens. That's the thing. For Colin Campbell to preserve the integrity of the game and just lie to everybody, is society that dumb that they didn't realize this goes on?
But it doesn't get taught. It doesn't necessarily get taught where you have to have makeup calls. That's not in the rule book. That's not in the courses. That's just human nature where, right? So from Colin Campbell's point of view, makeup calls don't happen because they don't teach them. They don't instruct their officials to do makeup calls. So from his point of view, I think it was basically a PR saying we don't do this and we're going to reprimand our official because of this. Behind closed doors, the conversation with Tim Peel was probably a little bit different. Timmy, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place here. We're going to have to let you ride off into the sunset a little bit earlier just for optics, right? And
then his legacy is in a way ruined. Like I said, they're out doing these sports banquets, and I've done dinners with Mick Magoo, obviously, and Don Kaharski, and now it'll be Tim Peel going to this sports dinner in Tabor, Alberta, and everybody will go, boy, you really got screwed, Timmy.
Exactly.
And that's the crappy thing. Dominic Froome writes in and says, firing Peel makes me wonder what the NHL's really trying to hide. Isn't that something? Jamie Anstey regarding the Q and the playoffs. Jamie's watching in Halifax. He says Maritime's division teams will complete their regular season schedule on Saturday, May 1st, and begin the playoffs on Tuesday, May 4th. So there are playoffs in the Q. Thank you for answering that. Now, in the time we have left, which is considerable in this segment before we bring in Rich Sutter for more hockey talk, CFL, XFL. You cover the CFL and the Rough Riders for Global Television. I'm dying to know your thoughts on this.
Well, there's a bunch to talk about, because are we talking about this season and what it looks like? Because
everything, you got time.
Well, okay, let's start this year. Training camp's supposed to start in 6 weeks. So if I'm a football player, I want to be in tip-top shape for day one of training camp. You're going to tell me in less than 6 weeks, am I going full bore right now and with my workouts? I imagine every player across the league right now is wondering the same thing. What does my training look like right now? Because is this an extended off season where I have to slow down right now and don't burn myself out because the season's starting in August? Or am I starting in May, and do I got to ramp it up for the next 6 weeks and get in shape? So, because you don't want to burn yourself out. You're not going to do your same workout 12 months out of the year, right? So there has to be an answer soon, and unless we've not heard something that has been coordinated with the players, I'm surprised there's not more uproar from the players division, in my opinion. And in terms of the XFL, I initially thought the partnership between the CFL and the XFL, when it was announced, was a PR stunt. Hey, let's get talking about both leagues during a downtime. And then when I sort of dug into it a little bit more, it seems like there's something here. And Randy Ambrosie and the league are sort of going to hitch their wagon to the XFL and to Dwayne Johnson specifically. Randy always talks a lot about generating more, a younger fan base and getting those younger people, because the older people, they're still going to buy the tickets and they're still going to show up, but it's those younger people who aren't showing up. And where are those younger people? Where's the reach? Well, he always says social media and on Instagram and whatnot. And you look at The Rock, 220 some million followers on Instagram alone. So Randy thinks that hitching his league to that Instagram account is going to generate tickets and seats. So whether or not that's true, that's kind of what he believes right now, I believe.
It all feels that way.
Yeah.
For sure. And we await some sort of announcement on this season. The news continues, Taylor, to all be bad. Like Wade Miller yesterday, the president of the Blue Bombers, who I've said a million times I admire a ton, and I do. And you saw what he said about the $7 million loss of the Blue Bombers. He says, this is why we're partnering with a company that understands sports and entertainment. Mm-hmm. He's talking about the XFL. Wade's just going to say it the way that it is. The question is, how are they going to do that? Because you know what? If the Rock just stroked a check right now for $50 million, here you go, guys, the CFL could play. You know that, right?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the CFL doesn't want to do that, and I think it's because they don't want to give up control to the Rock. Because if he forks over the dough, he's their daddy.
And then they owe them something, right? So you never want to owe somebody something.
Not if you can help it.
Yeah, not if you can help it. But I think they're going to be backed into a corner here soon if they can't get off the ground. And I mean, you don't ever. There's obviously something flawed. If you need outside money to play, there's obviously something flawed. I get the gate revenue and whatnot, but you can do more. You can try to find more somewhere else. But if you need a handout from somebody, there's a long-term business problem, and I think the CFL is aware of that. I think they're working on some things in terms of the marketing and whatnot, but they're obviously not doing enough, and I don't foresee the season starting in 6 weeks or training camp starting in 6 weeks at all.
Me either.
With the Rock's money or not at this point.
It's the second half kickoff. When we come back, Columbus Blue Jackets pro scout, 13-year NHL veteran Rich Sutter. Stick around. You're watching the RP Show on Game Plus TV Network, live daily on YouTube and Facebook, and 24-hour sports talk for Suds Full Service Car Wash at rodpedersen.com. Listen live.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of the Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.